were in good shape entering into them. As you may know, your situation is different than the other member communities, and that you're joining as a DDA instead of as the city itself. In every other case, the cities that are being added to the program are joining themselves, and so I just wanted to make sure that the language was consistent. And there's a couple of little things that, if you're going to approve them, I guess I would prefer that you approve them subject to my approval of the form of the agreements, so that I can talk to MOGO and make sure that those things are consistent. For example, and this is just in one of the recitals, so it's not really of any significance, but refers to you as the owner of the rights of way of the city, and you're not, of course, the city's the rights of way, or maybe not even in some cases accounting for it. But just little things like that. I understand, and I'm not, this is the first time I've met any of you, of course, so I'm not deeply involved in your budget or anything like that, but I understand you have budget. You have two commitments that you're making. You're making a commitment for the acquisition of the facilities, which are the bikes and the stations, and that's a certain number that is described in the share agreement in Exhibit F. And that's $10,359. And then there's a separate, and I understand you have that in your last year's budget. You'll be able to access those funds from last year's budget to utilize for that purpose, and if that's an approved budget. The separate commitment is then the ongoing operating costs, and so in that case, you're committing to funds every year, whereas you have a budget approved for next year. And I assume those funds, which are fairly nominal in amount, $1,615, are budgeted for this current now fiscal year as well. And so just recognize that as you go forward, you kind of have to monitor and make sure that's in the budget each year. If for any reason you were unable to budget for it, you have a 180-day window for terminating the agreement with MOGO, and so you'd have to look down the road and avail yourself of that if need be, if that ever came. But as I say, it's a fairly small amount in relation to your budget, so I don't think that's any substantial concern. In terms of the location of the facilities, again, because you are particularly in control of that, and also because they are covered by, if you have a complete streets program, do you have a complete streets
Yes.
approved plan? All right, so they will need to be consistent with that. The planning commission, I guess I'll leave it to you whether you want the planning commission to review them. I think that'd be a better course. But they've approved that plan, and so as long as they're located consistent with the complete streets plan, their locations will be okay. I do want to make sure that you've got the commercial general liability policy. Vivian tells me that you do. There are certain policy limits that you're supposed to be covered by. I don't think you have that policy yourself. The city has it on your behalf. So we just want to make sure that is in place. And I understand you have discussed in the past the fact that these facilities may contain advertising. That you're agreeing to that in the agreements. I haven't been part of all those discussions with MOGO, of course, but I understand that in some cases you can utilize that yourselves. But sometimes that gets into issues with the city's sign ordinance, so you just want to be aware that that's there. As I say, I think that the little things I had identified are just technicalities that I can look out with MOGO. There are two agreements. One is just a It's really just a memorandum of understanding as between you and the other member communities about your participation in this, and then the other, then there's the actual agreement as between DDP, Bike Share, which is MoGo, and all the member communities. I guess one other interesting thing to mention is that you will not own these facilities, that at the end of the day, MoGo still owns them. You can take them away when the agreement term is done. I think it's a 5-year agreement initially, and then there's a 5-year extension possible. And the theory is that there's no value to the facilities and the bikes at the end of 10 years, and so we'll just take them away. Any questions? I'll be happy to try to answer them. As I say, I've not been involved in the negotiations with MoGo, but I did read the agreements in preparation for today's meeting. Yes, sir.
So in section 4.03,
Which agreement are you?
I'll just give you the piece of paper. I just got a lot of these papers the other day, so.
Well, what's the page number on the bottom?
Page number 5. Back up in page number 6.
6? Okay. So that's,
Under asset management.
Yep.
So, just in reading the documents that I've gotten the other day, it's talking about the potential for lost or stolen equipment. Is there anything somewhere that actually specifies what those charges might be? So if a bicycle gets stolen, the city's liable to replace that bicycle. How much is that bicycle? And is that covered under any of our insurance policies for the city itself? Would the deductible for that insurance cover? I mean, that could potentially, we're getting whatever it is, 8 bicycles or whatever. We've got the potential for liability for those bicycles to get stolen over and over and over again. We could be potentially looking at a significant loss to keep replacing these bicycles.
It is not called out. That number is not called out. You could back into it sort of through the upfront payment that you're making for the facilities and the bikes. It's some fraction of that, but no, it's not called out in the agreement.
So we're entering into a blind agreement?
It does say in there that MoGo and the local community shall agree to meet annually to cooperate in good faith with respect to allocation of costs in connection with stolen, damaged, or destroyed bicycles. So that is a discussion that we have with MoGo. They are, I think, very open to doing what's reasonable. I don't think it's an open-ended agreement. The other communities are comfortable with that language because it is a discussion with MoGo, and they have that in there.
So why can't we have a definition of how much a stolen bicycle is going to cost the city to replace? Why can't we have a number before we sign an agreement?
Well, you could. You don't.
I'm just saying, why don't we? Why isn't there a clear definition of how much this might cost us going forward?
Sometimes in those, it'll obviously change over time, and from year to year won't be the same, but sometimes you get, an example of what it is today, so you at least have a scope of what it is, and I think that's something that an exact, current cost could be inserted in there.
Is it going to be?
If that's what the board wants as part of the approval.
I just feel uncomfortable entering into an agreement that has no defined parameters.
Well, I think once again, it says shall agree to meet annually to cooperate in good faith with respect to allocations of costs. So, once again, we're entering into this agreement in good faith, expecting that they will, meet with us and understand and be reasonable.
Good faith has a meaning within contract terms, as you may know. You take out, if you're agreeing to determine the cost in good faith, then it has to be related to reality. One can imagine what a bike actually costs.
Vivian, is this consistent typically with what neighboring communities?
This is the exact same agreement that every other community has signed off on.
Okay.
So it's no
Detroit,
different.
Royal Oak, Ferndale, Oak Park, Huntington Woods.
Detroit, of course, has experience with this program. It's been up and running downtown for
Do Just out of curiosity, in the same vein of that his question was, I mean, but do we have any statistics on, I mean, Detroit's been running this, do they have a stolen bike every week, or do they have a stolen bike never?
I mean, we can certainly ask, it hasn't been an issue. You don't, you know.
I would have
I
thought that
live
it would
in
happen
Detroit,
often,
and
it would
yeah.
have been an issue, but
You know,
maybe
they
we,
have
maybe we
trackers.
could ask that question.
They have trackers on all of those bikes, which is how they know where they are, because on a daily basis, they go and they, you know, if one station is heavy in bikes, they pick them up and they move them somewhere else, so they track them on a daily basis. So,
Guess you don't want to be driving a tracked bike down the street.
yeah, I mean, I can certainly ask. I would hate to, you know, hold up this agreement for a month, you know, just based on that, but that's up to you guys.
I think having the information of how many bikes have been stolen, how much the cost of those bikes to replace them is, and the ongoing maintenance costs for vandalism, et cetera, would be an interesting piece of information to know if there's that piece of paper.
Do we have any other discussion? Anybody else have something they want addressed? You want to move this for a vote?
Yeah, you should vote on individually, so, you know, vote on the support of the MOU and then vote on the support of the bicycle sharing agreement.
Okay. Can I get a motion to accept the MOU agreement as is? Have a motion?
That's the agreement the other communities have entered into, right?
Yep.
I think I'm fine with the verbiage as it is. If good faith, I mean, it's a bike. It's not gonna be, there's relative cost to the bike that I would be comfortable with.
Well, we're installing 2 bicycle stations and we're getting 8 bicycles, and it costs us about $40,000.
I understand.
Do I have a second? All in favor? Nobody's in favor?
Nobody wants it?
I'm in favor. Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so I have 1 nay. All right, we'll pass that, and then can I get a motion to accept the operating agreement as written?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, awesome. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, we have 1 dissenting there. We'll take that. All right, moving on. The facade grant application.
For Pure Cure. So they're our new business that's going into the old Airmaster space right next to it. And this is just, you know, for signage. You saw the sign, the front sign. I think you guys all have that. And then just to clarify, so you understand, this isn't a white background. It's just the way they did the graphic. It's just, as you can see, it's the channel letters and the logo. So the design committee reviewed this and approved it for that up to $1,000, you know, for signage. It's that 50-50 match. I would be surprised if it actually, you know, is a match up to $1,000, but you know, in keeping with what we try to do with other new businesses coming in and helping them with their signage, the committee felt like this was a reasonable and good project to support. But it does need your approval.
Okay, any discussion on said facade grant? Any questions, comments, thoughts? All right, can I get a motion to approve the facade grant for Pure Cure?
Motion to approve. Support.
Awesome. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, there we go. Mural applications.
Yeah.
Got a couple of
so-
them.
Yep. Street Art Fest is coming, and we've got murals happening again. We have 3 mural applications. 2 of them are for folio offices, or 3 actually. One is for the neighbor shop and one is for the wedding shop. So folio is doing their garage, and that I think is the, which artist is doing that? Lacey Draper. And in your packet, you saw, concepts of what her, I have it here. She had 2 concepts, they're quite similar, concept sketches. You can see kind of tropical feeling, beachy, where we all want to hang out. And then also you kind of saw the types of things that she does, so you get a feel for her type of artwork. She gave you, I think I included kind of what the color palette would be. So that's for the garage. And then there's also doing the rear wall with another artist named Ed. You'll also see that everybody has filled out and signed, the artists have signed that mural application, agreeing that this commissioned work, the DDA, for purposes of copyright, takes ownership, so we don't have issues like we had with previous. So anyway, back wall is once again kind of a cool, colorful mural, which I think will be fabulous back there and brighten up that alley. For the wedding shop, that was, let me do the neighbor shop, which is Troy and Donna. And I love this, and once again, it's a completed application. Oh, and you guys, I hope you saw a color one, I don't have, but it's a fabulous mural. I mean, I love this.
Yeah, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I am too. And then the wedding shop is doing a large mural. I don't think I have the graphic of it, but it was that big floral mural that either had kind of a purple or a black background. So anyway, all the applications are complete. The Public Art Committee reviewed them all and was very enthusiastic about each and every one. So it's now up to you guys to give the final approval so these guys can start painting. Because they are ready to go.
Do I have any discussion on the mural applications? Anyone have any questions? Steve, no? All right, can I get a motion to approve all 3 applications for the murals?
I did just have one question.
Sure.
On the neighbor shop. You the Godzilla, right? Is that in the public's realm? There's no issues with possibly having Godzilla, like,
Copyright.
no copyright issues, anything like that? Like that image is in the public realm and everything?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a rendering, it's not an actual,
Okay.
it could be seen as a monster.
It's not Mr. Godzilla?
It won't actually say
Not the
Godzilla.
actual-
Yeah, I know.
It's not the actual Godzilla.
It's like a twin or
His cousin.
However, if we got PR because somebody thought that we copyrighted true infringement,
True.
yeah, I take that. If somehow the neighbor shop inside alley wall, but I appreciate your question, but no, it's just a rendering. It's not- Yeah.
All right. I still need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Awesome. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Awesome. 3 new beautiful murals for the city. 4 for, that's right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, moving on.
Oh, you know what, I should have, I thought I'd updated it. We don't have the bylaws to review, so,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
Sorry, we should have amended that and realized I hadn't taken it out. They're coming next month.
So nothing,
No, no bylaws this month.
okay.
Sorry, Mike.
All right, let us discuss the executive directors.
What we'll do, I just want to make sure, just for discussion purposes, that, you guys saw the master plan matrix and the strategic plan matrix, that Lakota is asking you to fill out. I just was wondering if anybody has questions about those. Otherwise, I wanted to really encourage you to make sure that you do get those filled out in advance of Saturday morning's meeting. Because I think having that information will be critical to that discussion and updating the strategic plan for the DDA. So does anybody have questions about those?
You want those filled out and returned? Or
Yeah.
bringing them, or-
You can bring them. You can bring them to the meeting. Yeah, but do try to fill them out. And it'll take some time. And I think all of you have a copy of the strategic plan from 2017. If you don't, let me know and I'll email it to you. But I think I've sent it to almost everybody. And then the other thing, Andy, on the discussion action was the retail marijuana subcommittee. The city is putting together a draft ordinance for where marijuana shops might fit into Berkley. There will no doubt be marijuana shops that, well, we already know since we have several gentlemen walking down the streets trying to purchase buildings, which Brian experienced yesterday, and several of our other business owners. Have they come to you yet to buy here?
No idea. I don't think so. I think Marty would told me that one.
Yeah, I mean, they're getting around. So far, I don't think anybody's sold to them. But I thought it might be good for the board to just put together a subcommittee to maybe come up with some recommendations to review the ordinance that the city has, but because this could be significantly impacting the DDA district, that the DDA come back with a few recommendations, or at least, you know, review the ordinance that the city has put together. So,
Does anybody have interest in sitting on that committee? As do I.
okay, that should be good.
So Nicole, Jennifer, and myself. Anybody else have any interest in?
Why, do we have any further clarification from the state on whether or not, like, liquor or convenience stores are going to be able to sell?
It looks like no
No,
no joint sales with liquor, no joint sales with tobacco retailers. The state just released their framework on July 3rd, and so they introduced several new use types, and there's a lot of surprises in there that we didn't anticipate right now. And so we're going back through there and realigning it with the draft ordinance that we put out. They even allowed, most surprisingly of all, at least to me, was they put out a license for on-site consumption.
Also like cafe style?
Yeah, was not expecting that. That was not part of the conversation up to this point. So things like that, now we have to go back through and see what we're gonna allow and what we're not gonna allow. We have most of them focusing on retail up to this point, but there were several other licenses that were developed as well, including special event licenses, temporary licenses, and things like that. So it certainly put us back to the drawing board to a certain extent.
And we can opt out as long as we please and then opt in whenever we please?
No, we've already set the timeline. The city council reviewed it. December 31st is going to be the end of our opt-out, and so we're anticipating being ready to accept applications by January 1st.
Okay.
You'll determine which licenses you'll allow.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
What is a special event license?
We were like I was thinking like a hash
Like a hash bash in
Yeah.
Amherst,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm not sure how else to describe it.
Okay, that was what
Some-
popped in my
something,
head,
yeah.
but.
And we were talking like something akin to like a pig and whiskey or a festival, but with marijuana consumption. With purchasing and that work. There's a lot of different vendors that maybe get together and they're all, you know, sort of showing the crafts, but it's on a temporary basis. Yeah. So those are not something that were addressed in our initial draft. We didn't expect that to come from the state.
Anyone else have any questions?
Unofficial interest in something, I'll email you.
So maybe
So maybe you guys could meet and then bring back to the board in August any recommendations that you have based on the draft ordinance? DDA discussion and then share any of those back to the city.
If anybody's interested, the Michigan Municipal League is putting on a webinar on the 16th. I'm already signed up to virtually attend, but if anyone wants to sit on that webinar with me, I'll have that up in the conference room. I'll get I don't have the time off the top of my head, but for those that are interested.
What was that date?
That's the 16th. In fact, let me pull my calendar real quick, see if I can get you a better mirror in that in a little bit.
Anybody else? Bueller? Okay. Okay. I guess we can start this discussion about Vivian's resignation. I just want to say that I'm a little disappointed and sad to see you go, Vivian. I'll put it out there that a lot of good work's been done over the last couple of years as a retailer. Speaking specifically as a retailer, there's a lot more life on Coolidge today than there was 10 years ago when we opened. So I think you can wear that out of here as a proud badge because I believe that there's been some good work done. Having said that, let's open this up for some discussion on our resignation and our hiring process for a new ED.
I did want to, which I put, I think I mentioned that I think the hiring process should, the organization committee should be allowed to kind of take that forward by putting that job description together and probably working with Main Street Oakland County to advertise the job, to also review the job description. It's up to you guys whether you want that job description to come back to the full board or whether you're gonna trust the org committee to cover everything that needs to be covered. One of my goals is in waiting to leave until the end of August was to see if we couldn't get this hiring process in place so that there isn't a huge gap between executive directors. I don't think the DDA wants to lose any momentum. I certainly don't want you to lose any momentum. So, maybe ideally if the board committee could fine tune and post the position, then, maybe you have interviews, then the board itself could decide, who sits on the interview committee, but maybe could start by mid-August with the potential of having a new hire in place early in September. I think it's gonna be important just because of the initiatives that the DDA has going on, that you'll wanna get somebody in place pretty quickly. So, once again, that's a board decision, you guys can decide. Either way, it should start in the board committee. I mean, that's kind of where the responsibility is. If you want them to put together a draft and then bring it back to the full board next month, that's certainly an option too.
I mean, I think it makes sense for the org committee to develop a job description, distribute it. Again, I know, we all have 9 to 5s or 8 to 5s or whatever, but, distribute it as soon as they could before the next meeting so that, we could make as a full board, we could make any notes or, any additions or modifications to the proposed job description. I mean, I guess that holds us up, the org committee up from interviewing anybody until after the August meeting. But it would seem to me that it would make sense that the board be able to, have input on the job description, and then also have some opportunity to let the org committee go through the initial round of interviews, but then also, once they've selected a candidate or two that they want to put forward, allowing the full board access to that individual as well. So that we all kind of have our toe in the pool for this next hire. Not that I don't trust whatever recommendation the committee would make, but I think it makes sense for all of us to.
Oh, I agree. And I'm not saying that I think the org committee should do the actual hiring. I think
Sure.
there should be there should probably be a hiring committee that's put together. That would also include maybe a council member, maybe Steve, because he is the council liaison. you know, and some other key stakeholders. So, yeah, I see the org committee just starting the process and getting that job description done and getting it posted. They could definitely kind of sort through the resumes that came in, and then the board could, you know, put together that hiring committee. And ultimately, yeah, I would think that you'd want, you know, your top candidate to come in and interview with the board.
The org committee doesn't start from scratch, we do still have one that utilized in 2016, and they can go from there.
And that was gonna be my next question, is, I mean, do we really need to hold off?
Well, we've put,
Prob- well-
yeah.
Well, I mean, job descriptions there, I mean, it's not like we're inventing a new job here. I mean, the description's probably been written 5 times over.
Well, we've expanded it already, I'll tell you. I mean, we put a draft job description out there to the org committee, just, you know, because I think the scope of the job is much bigger than what the original job description had.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that it's as comprehensive. Obviously, when the first job description went out, the DDA had never had an executive director, so we weren't really aware, I think, of the total scope of the job. And I think it's important to make sure that we build not only on, you know, that base, but also make sure that we're addressing I think the true scope of the job, because there's a lot there.
I guess my only concern is waiting to the August meeting to simply approve a job description. I mean, we can maybe use a alternate job description current, you know, and then maybe in August, if we don't like it, or the candidates that it is bringing in, then maybe, you know.
Or the org, there's no reason the organization committee can't send it out to the full board to just give comments on. It's not like, you know, it's
That can be done too.
a voted thing, you don't have to vote
Right,
on the
that's-
job description.
Yeah,
I mean, you can get
I was
feedback.
clear about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would.
I mean, the longer we wait to start posting, the longer it's gonna be before we get a qualified candidate.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty comprehensive. I want to throw, I think we need to add the nonprofit management portion in there, that's not in there. Yeah.
Do we, I'm sorry.
I haven't, so you're the only, I mean, this just went to you and the org committee, so the rest of the board hasn't seen it.
Got it, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
We should probably have some sort of a contingency developed, because I'm assuming there will be a gap between Vivian's exit and our hire.
That's my fear.
Well,
The longer that, I mean,
I know, I think it's a reality. I just,
Right.
because the labor market is what it is, I mean, it's, you know, it's tight times, so, as far as hiring is concerned. So, I mean, I would just think that maybe if, and Vivian, you let us know, I mean, would it make sense to try to develop, I'm sure matrix is being used a million times in this meeting already, but some sort of a transition matrix so that you can kind of update the balls that you've kept rolling, and maybe as a board, we look at this and say, okay, if there's a gap, is there anyone within the capacity to keep these 2 balls rolling and that ball, and then if not, we figure out a way to pause whatever's going on until the new person's out. Like, I think it's a pretty good reality that there'll be a gap.
Yeah, and Mateo, I think that's a great idea. I want to do everything that I can do to work with this board and all of our committees. The thing is, you know, our committees are fully functioning. That work isn't going to come to a stop, you know. These are great committees, they're great volunteers, they will be updating all their annual action plans, so they all know what their roadmap is. But I do think that it always helps at the board level to make sure that you have somebody in place. And if there are going to be gaps with major things, I would certainly want to work with you guys to make sure that, I mean, I love this job. I love this community. I don't want to see anything fail, and I don't want to see momentum stop.
Sure.
Yeah, whatever we can do to make sure that everything is moving forward, I'm there for you guys, so just let me know.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I mean, would it be feasible for, again, it doesn't have to be 7 pages long, but, you know, some sort of a matrix that just kind of states what the project is, where it currently stands, what the next step is, you know, maybe the date, the hopeful date that would be completed by, so that, you know, we can start looking at what's gonna fall outside of August
Yeah,
that needs the ball to keep rolling, and then as a board, we can decide, okay, is there anyone individually that can take that one line and this line, and I can take the other 3? Or is it hey, we can do 5 things, but the other 4 on here are just gonna have to wait till we get some in place.
Yeah.
I mean, would that be feasible to put together in the next 2 weeks? 3 weeks?
Yeah,
I mean, I'll work with
I'd say
you.
2 to 3 weeks, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Sure.
Anybody else?
So I just want to make sure I understand that you're okay with the organization committee, which by the way, Larry is still chair of, so we haven't lost Larry. Finalizing the job description, sending it out to the board as a whole for feedback, and then getting that posted ASAP.
I think it's like fire plan.
Excellent. And then if we need, we'll put another committee together for the hiring at the appropriate time.
Right.
Okay, awesome. Moving on then, we're gonna skip the students. Business development.
Yeah, you know, the business development committee met, we're still doing, I hope you guys have been able to see some of the Metro stuff, the little video snippets that have been out there. We have another session this Thursday with Kate, the reporter who's kind of our on-the-ground reporter, and she's doing the meeting with various stakeholders. Nicole, she was supposed to reach out to you, didn't she?
Yeah, I think Marty's going tomorrow.
Oh, good, okay. Yeah, and remember, this is once again kind of a B2B effort where we want to just talk about things. We've really tried to focus on some of our business owners and the expansions they're doing, because I think that in the downtown world, your best recruitment is when you have a current business owner who expands or does, you know, a second concept. That's such a much more effective way of business recruitment than always trying to go out and bring somebody in. And the business expansion we've seen with Tootie and Tallulah's, with Cocoa Fairfield, with Gatekeepers, the investments that we're seeing just with some of the other business owners is really indicative of the fact that people are seeing the district as a healthy district and a place where they want to put their funds and their investment. And to me, that just says so much, because small business owners have they have a lot of places to choose to go, and to choose Berkley to make that investment. I think you guys should, I think the DDA can take a lot of credit over the past several years for what you guys have accomplished to make people want to make those investments. To see somebody like Chemistry come in and take that old, you know, building and transform it, I mean, that's a huge statement of support on that small business owner's behalf, that they believe in this district. And that's the kind of momentum we want to keep going. We don't want to lose that. So back to, you know, that's what this whole Metro Mode thing is about, is just getting the people who are investing in our DDA district to share why, and then hoping, you know, that will give other entrepreneurs or business owners who are looking for second locations to also, you know, invest in the DDA district. Obviously, we have Brian, you know, a new business owner who's been here, just about 6 months, who made a big investment, you know, in the West End. So these are really, really, I think, positive things, and we need to share this information so we kind of get the brand value of downtown Berkeley out there. So that's moving along well. We have 2 more weeks of that. I guess I have to do design committee too. Design committee, we didn't meet this past month. I think it was a big vacation month, so there just wasn't anybody who could make it. So nothing really going on in design.
We have Jen.
Jen gets marketing and promotions.
So for marketing and promotions, we just met this past Monday, and we kind of had a ladies' night out, art and about takeover for that meeting, since those are the 2 events that are coming up. For ladies' night out, that is next Thursday, July 18. So we were kind of just like fine tuning last minute details. We have emails going out. We have a news release going out later on this week. We're starting on social media ads. Bless you. And then we also will have a segment on Fox 2 News next Tuesday. So that will be really great PR for this event as well. And then for Art and About, that was...
Jen,
Yes.
talk about how many new businesses you have on.
Oh, yes. So we have 8 restaurants who are participating, and then we also have 31 retail businesses participating as well. Of those, we have, I believe that was up to around 8 or 9 new businesses who haven't participated in the past, or who have participated in previous years who are now on board. So that's really exciting. One of the goals that I set for Couples Night Out was to have 3 new restaurants and 3 new businesses, so we've surpassed that. The other goal is to have, 300 attendees, so we'll see next Thursday if we can surpass that goal, but at least we've met 2 of the 3, so I'm excited about that, and the whole committee is excited about that as well. And then for Art and About, that was supposed to be on Friday, August 2nd. We actually decided to cancel that event. We're going to focus on more of a night market, hopefully in May and September of 2020. So we're going to start planning that in the next few months and really get momentum and get creative with those 2 events.
And your committee continues to gain new members.
Yes, we had 1 new member. Technically, she was for a Couples Night Out, but I invited her to Marketing Promotion. So she brought some great insight for Art and About, so hopefully we can get her on for Marketing Promotion.
Yeah. Her name is, what's it?
Christina, she's a resident.
Okay. Yeah.
Larry, you want to pretend you're Larry for a minute?
Yeah. So organization, as you guys know, basically has spent their past several months, was kind of spent on vetting, trying to find the right people to fill those board vacancies, making that recommendation, to the board. That's been a key process for them over the past several months. They are also now moving forward the 501c3. We're hoping we've got that pretty well organized. The attorney who's working on that will be writing getting us a draft of the narrative that needs to go with that, and we need to put together the financial statement for that application, but we're actually quite close to submitting a complete application to the IRS. And then the other thing that they're working on, or trying to restart, I think, is the video that we've been trying to put together. I need to get together with our committee chairs so we can maybe do some videotaping again, some practice taping to try and get that video back on board. We were a little disappointed with some of the video last time and the way just the interviews with the committee chairs came out, so we're working with the consultant who's helping us with that project to kind of reboot that and start again. So hopefully in the next couple months, you guys will see a draft kind of version of that video. And the purpose for the new board members, the purpose of that video is really to try and explain to the public what the DDA does, because it is kind of confusing, and the role it plays as a partner with other organizations such as the Chamber and the city in revitalizing the DDA districts. So I think it'll be should we manage to be able to pull it off and do it right, I think it'll be a really good communication piece for the DDA.
Well, moving on, you want the floor again for?
Yeah. We have 3 new board members here. So Scott?
Yes.
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 And then John's not.
No, I know that.
And then Brian.
I don't know Brian.
Brian.
He's from Zoltan.
You're Brian?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And then,
Yes, I do know that.
We'll take this moment to acknowledge our new board members, and if you don't mind, why don't you just say your name and Anything else you want
Sure.
to share with us?
Scott Francis, work with Berkley Schools as a Director of Curriculum and Technology for the district. Was a principal, elementary principal at Pat and Gill for 3 years as well. Before this position, so I've been in Berkley Schools for 5 years, and also a resident in Berkeley for the past 15 years.
I'm Brian Zifkin, I own Zones Treasures. We opened on 12 Mile, down where Curves used to be. We moved our business from actually on Coolidge in Manhattan. We were there for like 13 years. So we bought the building, so we're invested in Berkeley. We're here to stay, and want to try to help make the city even better.
Chris Gross, Berkeley Common. So that's been almost 2 years. And resident of Huntington Woods and kids in Berkeley schools for the last 15, 20 years.
Awesome. Well, welcome. Welcome to town with your business. You're right, Berkeley is a great place to grow business. Steve, I'll give you the
Well,
first.
actually, I do want to speak as the executive director.
Okay.
I want to make sure that everybody understands why I'm leaving. And it has nothing to do with the residents who have been opposed to the things we're doing. I want to make that clear. I'm not leaving because Chalk doesn't like me or doesn't like what I'm doing or whatever. I mean, I'm not leaving because of negative feedback from the residents. I'm leaving because I believe that, unfortunately, our city manager broke a promise that he made to this board 2 years ago, and that he chose to disrespect the organization committee's process and the board's approach to bringing up new board members by not sharing at any time that there was a candidate that we weren't aware of. And I think that disrespect was grievous. I think that the promise that was broken from 2 years ago was incredibly discouraging to me. And I felt like I couldn't continue as executive director, as a partner to the city, where such blatant disrespect had taken place. And I think it's important to make sure that that's stated. I, once again, love this job. You guys have been the best board I've ever worked with. I don't think that you deserve that disrespect. And I found it incredibly hurtful for you guys. I think what happened to Amanda Ramirez was shameful. And my heart breaks for her. And I will never understand how a city would have treated a volunteer who's given hundreds of hours of her time to this downtown and be so casual about it. That's why I'm leaving.
Thank you. I don't, I guess because I'm missing something obvious, and no offense that I haven't met you before, but from our last board meeting to the city council meeting to the day where you were voted on, what happened and how is it that, because we are part of, that's what the organization committee does.
Yeah.
What happened? I just want to understand how that happened, because we left the board meeting understanding that Amanda.
That we had 3 good candidates who were going to the council.
Right, and so, I just want to understand what happened and how that could happen without the organizational committee having an understanding. Or having that right board.
You're right, we did have 3 phenomenal candidates. This had nothing to do with Amanda specifically. She's done phenomenal work It's unquestioned and undoubted by anybody who's met her, who's worked around her. She did fantastic work on the committee she serves. We thought we had Brian's application already submitted in the bank of all the applications. Brian had submitted on May 20th. For whatever reason, it didn't make it into the pile. And so he reached out to a couple council members. A council member will meet with him. Very impressed by him. I understand that, believing that he'll do very good work on this board. But again, ultimately the decision goes to city council to make that choice. And as I was reviewing all the applications, what we do is there's a process in which council members will submit to me their preferences on the board. And so as they came in, and even up to the Friday prior to the council meeting, we had essentially a tie between Brian and a tie between Mr. Ramirez, and then an additional council member had nominated a third person. So neither one of them had a full support from all the council members. It was tied. So I pulled out the applications, I looked at them, and part of the board DDA ordinance has myself as being ultimately the one that makes the recommendation. I typically just go with whatever the board submits forward. And I looked at them. Ultimately, I thought Brian might be better suited to serve this board. And so I presented both the DDA board's recommendations as well as my own to council members to make that decision. They went through a process during the council meeting where they stated a preference, and it was a very close vote. It ended up being 4-3, I think, for Brian. So it came about as close as it possibly could to just going with the DDA board's recommendations. But ultimately, there was one additional vote for Brian here. So that's kind of the process in a nutshell.
Nice to meet you.
I'm just disheartened with the way that flowed. Like, the communication is broke down that much. And it puts, Brian puts you in a bad position. It really does. And I think it's unfair, not just to Mr. Ramirez, but to Brian too. There's a little bit of controversy around it. It's unfair to the whole board. I mean, if resumes are, oh gosh, found underneath my desk and we didn't know where it was, and oh well, let's slip it in last minute. That just makes the process look flawed and poor. And it makes us, not just the board, but the city, just actually, well, where's the communication? We all run businesses. Businesses flow like that, your bottom line's impacted. And I just hope moving forward that we synchronize better, communication's better. And darn, I'm volunteering my time. I interview people, and all of a sudden I find out that another person was slipped in there in the dark of the night. That's the way it felt, and it made me feel like I wasted my time. To take my time out of my day to do the interview. I don't like the way that felt. I don't like the way it just smelled bad and it felt bad and it felt like, well, what the heck was I doing? What was my time? Appreciation of my time. All these other communications took place behind the scenes without communication back to us. Where's the courtesy? So that's where I just feel like I heard what happened. I'm like, that just doesn't feel right. Brian, welcome aboard. Listen, I like what you did down there, and this has nothing to do with you, but it impacted you, and I just want to share my thoughts. But I hope moving forward this never happens again, because it's flawed, it's poor, and I hope the city of Berkley, the people deserve better. Okay, deserve better communication, better partnership, and more transparency. And they deserve it. We deserve it. The council deserves. Everyone deserves it. I hope moving forward that's the way we operate as a team.
Yeah, and it's certainly atypical. It's not the way that this typically goes at all. And to your point, the organization committee, the board as a whole, did absolutely put forward 3 fantastic candidates. 2 of them ultimately made on the board, and then one unfortunately did not. I really do hate that Mr. Ramirez was present for the meeting. On hindsight, I wish had not happened, that she didn't have to kind of sit there as they were sort of debating whether or not she was going to be elevated from the committee to the board.
And that could have that could have been prevented with communication, proper process. This is unacceptable. The process is unacceptable. You being on the board is completely acceptable, but it should have followed the process. So we can't have that happen again. We need to, this city and everyone in it deserves better than that. We need to perform better as a team. So that's it. We're good.
Would anybody else like to express?
Yeah, I just want to ask a question, purely just to learn from, hopefully learn from mistakes made. Why couldn't the decision of either all three or one position, two being filled and one being left between two more candidates, why couldn't that have been, at the discovery of an application that was, for whatever reason, not considered when it should have been considered or not reviewed when it should have been reviewed? Why can't that just get pushed to the next meeting? Why can't it be brought, and I'm not asking from a critical standpoint, I'm asking from the standpoint of, I feel like one of the problems we have sometimes, it's like, it's gotta be by the next meeting. You gotta get this next meeting, we meet once a month, that's not enough time. Like, why is time our enemy in these things? If this was an issue, why couldn't we have looked at this and said, okay, this presents a dilemma. Does this dilemma have to be figured out by the next council meeting or the next DDA meeting? In my mind, I say no. I mean, we've operated with vacancies before, so why not put all three decisions off until the next meeting so that this issue can be hashed out by that time? Or we confirm two, and the two left that were, one was found against or whatever it might be, gets pushed to the other meeting. My question is, can that be done? Was there a reason why that wasn't done?
It's something we can do in the future. We looked at a couple different things here and potentially had a similar situation like this off earlier, and at least get the word out to whatever the affected body ends up paying, if it's environmental, tree board, whatever it ends up being, to get the word out to the chair of the liaison faster than that in the future.
And yeah,
It could be done differently, and if this comes up again.
yeah. I'm not. You guys know the process better than I do from an internal working perspective, but everyone makes mistakes, And I just know that when I've made one, I sit down and I play out the scenarios of what's the least amount of damage that can be done from this mistake via my actions. And in my mind, I say, waiting another 6 weeks is a lot less, in my mind, there's a lot less damage control to be done waiting in 6 weeks than doing it the way that we did it, because now it's damage control. Not damage. Yeah, I know, I'm sorry, man. Welcome to the DDA. This is par for the course, but that's what I think goes through my mind is, I think, I like momentum, but I think we all have to kind of take a step back sometimes and say, can it wait till the next meeting? Can it wait another month? Yeah, it can. For a lot of things, I think that we do. So that's just as this was all getting explained to me, that's kind of what my thought process was. Okay, we found an application late or whatever. Cool. We're not confirming anyone this meeting because of this situation. We'll hammer it out. Now we've got 6 weeks instead of 2. That's just my thought. Like I said, it's purely from learning from a mistake standpoint. It's not a critical question, it's just a question.
Ultimately, the decision came down to the council, so that's why I presented both options. I didn't want to present like that the board decision to send forth through recommendations just didn't exist. That's why I ultimately decided to lay out the situation in a memo to council and present both options. That even the memo had an or in there instead of just picking one and letting it move forward. So that's what it was. We could have made. You're right. We could have made the choice to say, leadership to council. We can send forth at least 2. We've got a third option that's in question here, based on the feedback I've got from council so far. We could have done that, and we possibly very well may do that in the future.
Yeah, crap happens. Right? Like I just wouldn't want to see anything move hastily because we think time is our enemy or whatever it might be.
We need to perform at a higher standard.
And you just said we may do that. I don't like the may, if you should be doing that. Is there any
Well,
way?
hopefully we don't get, I say may only because hopefully we're not in a situation again, where it's like the Friday before a council meeting, we've got issues. And so what we've been talking about in my office was trying to get the solicitations out for volunteers earlier, trying to get a memo out to city council earlier saying, okay, here's, especially for the July meeting where there's, considering all the vacancies, here's what you have, here's who's out there, trying to really enforce a better communication strategy where our volunteers, because they're volunteers, they're busy, they have a lot of stuff going on, really try to encourage them to get their applications into us faster and earlier, because this isn't the only board that we had a similar issue with. We had, as we're trying to say, even for our reappointments, like please, reapply if you're interested, we need you to do so, and we got some of those in late as well. Late being like week of the council meeting, or week prior to the council meeting, and it really does slow the entirety of our process down. If we don't have a commitment from our current board members that they want to continue to serve, then it sort of leaves us calling and trying to email them to say, hey, you still interested, we need that document. So there's I say may only because there's other process improvements that should prevent this from happening again.
Anybody else have any thoughts? Okay, then we're going to move on. You, Steve.
All right, well, I was thinking about how to engage in a dialogue. Maybe I'll just pick right up where the ball is at the moment, and my intent is to kind of end up a little bit more positive tone here. But in terms of, so I'm very happy to hear frank and open discussion amongst the board here. These are important times, and we're talking about something that we all care greatly about. And we love this city, we love this downtown, we're spending our time doing these things, and it's very important that we understand one another and where we're coming from, and as we hit issues or problems, and we got to figure out how to work through them with as minimal damage as possible. It was true that I don't know if it was intentional or just accidental. It certainly wasn't alphabetical, but I didn't understand that there even was an issue until late Friday night. That there was an additional application, and so in terms of timing and all that stuff, this was certainly a late opportunity for me to at least understand that there was an issue. I think that Mateo's comment, had there been some sort of known controversy, we certainly could have deferred the disappointment to the subsequent meeting, which is on the 19th of August. And to the point about other process improvements, certainly there's lots of things we can improve. This is the only committee that has a structured process in place to nominate and vet volunteers. So although it is true, one of the other liaison hats that I wear to the historical committee, the day of the council meeting, like at 4 o'clock or something, we got a volunteer's application, and we said we can't just cram this in, but the process is that they get vetted, so that person will come up hopefully on August 19th for historical committee, which has no limit to the number of volunteers, so I don't expect that to be particularly controversial. But my only thought is that this board has a committee that has written procedures about how they go about doing these things, and those procedures were followed, and there's always next time, as they say, in terms of participating. I want to echo your new colleagues' comments again. Can only go up from here, hopefully. Anyway, those are just a couple of quick observations from my perspective. I do want to thank this group for what you continue to do, for joining us here, and for those of you that are still enjoying the journey. I've had the pleasure of being the liaison for 10 years now. I think the only one else that's been along this longest has been over here. And for many years, as most of you, I'm sure you know, this board had been hamstrung by the debt from the prior Coolidge and 12 Mile Creek intersection for the better part of a decade. This body had enough funds to do a little bit with the banners and plant a few flowers, and then they'd save up and do a cool project like the parking lots over on 12 Mile, and then we partnered with the city to do the one over here. So a couple of significant contributions to the downtown over that decade, but as the chair mentioned, in the last two, 3 years, man, this committee has done some tremendous work. The volume and the pace and the caliber and the excitement that this group brings continues to be very well received, and I'm very thankful for what this group does. From anything official with the city council's perspective, as you guys know, we had our meeting last week. We do a lot of the procedural kinds of things to budget adjustments and things to true up from the past fiscal year, and appointing city representatives to committees like SACRA and SACWA, and all those kinds of things happen this time of year as appropriate. And then again, as mentioned, our next council meeting is not till the 19th of August, so what's cool about that is it gives the staff time to lean in on some more of the policy issues that they need to work on, like the recreational marijuana discussions and things like that. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that progresses, and I am glad to hear that there's interest in the DDA having a formal voice in that as well. That'll be going through Planning Commission before it comes to council, so certainly this group will have opportunities to engage at those steps along the way as well. So I think that's it. Any questions for me? Anything I can help you with?
Moving on.
All right.
Planning Commission.
Well, everybody, thanks for letting me back in here again. I haven't been here a few months. I apologize for that. Work and life has kind of been a thing going on. Planning Commission actually has been a little slow. Last meeting was it postponed the last select development information to the next meeting, but there is something forthcoming. We approved some verbiage for new daycares in the special land use in the office and local businesses districts, and the thing we worked on was we adjusted our time for our meetings and our archival lists. Last meeting was just really kind of a quiet, easygoing meeting, nothing special. That's also the planning.
Thank you. You're up. Nicole?
Morning, everybody. Obviously, you should all know that our big event coming up this Saturday, we are super excited, our 3rd annual Berkley Street Art Fest. I always get confused on that one. So super excited, it's from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. It's open to everybody. We have 29 chalk artists signed up. Last year we only had 25, so we're already above last year, super exciting. You can register until Friday morning and we will have walk-ins accepted. So if you are still on the fence, jump off that fence and please sign up. It will be a blast. We have more food trucks, we have more artisan vendors than last year. We will have music in 2 locations at Folio and Berkley Eyewear. Nice. Jeff Mallet, who is a cartoonist for Fraz, he does the Fraz cartoon. He will be speaking in front of Toadvine's bookstore at 12:30 p.m. We have a lot of free activities, a bouncy house at Nova Chiropractic, we have food art at Balance Wellness, giant Rubik's Cube at Vitrine, the DIA, the Friends of Berkley Library, Ennis Center, and Detroitville will all have free art activity tents, so a ton of fun on Coolidge. So we also will have street performers as well, with the grand finale at 3:30 p.m. So if you are going to come, you can only spend a certain amount of time. 3:30 p.m. is the grand finale of the street art performers, and so it's going to be huge. We're super excited. So much going on. We're already concerned about anniversarying it next year. And the next thing on my list is we have a chamber chat. So you are all invited to our monthly chamber chats. We hope that we get some more attendance to those. Our next one is at Zalman's Treasures. So thank you very much for hosting. Sure. It is July 19th, so next Friday at 8 a.m. And then we are planning and almost ready for the Berkley Pub Crawl, which is changing up a little bit this year. We are going to do it on a Saturday as opposed to a Thursday night. So that will be interesting. It will be from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. Part of the proceeds from our pub crawl go to the Berkley Holiday Lights Parade. And we are looking for sponsors. And it will be an 80s theme, so get out the Aquanet.
What's that date? Pub crawl date?
The pub crawl date is August 24th. Yes, sorry about that.
So that's the Saturday after Dream Cruise.
It is the Saturday. I really try to do it the Saturday after. But I will shout it out.
Awesome. All right, I'll take the floor for a second here, and I want to thank all the board members that sponsored, donated money to the Street Fest because that is one of my boards that I sit on as well, and that event is kind of special to me. So thank you for your continued support on that. As well, I want to address if I'm not mistaken, at the pretty far west end, correct?
It's right down on the same block as anticipated.
Yeah. I'm hoping that in the coming months and years that we can get you on the events like Ladies Night Out. Is he part of it, Ladies?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Because obviously one of our biggest challenges, I think, short of correcting some of Coolidge's ills, which are well underway, is addressing the West End and getting people down that way. And these events, I can tell you because I didn't do these events in the early years. Today, these events are bringing people through the doors. Okay, they're reminding people that Berkley is not, down and out, and it's fun. These ladies are, and I'm hoping ladies and guys are going to have a great time. So I'm glad you're down there, and I'm glad you're getting involved because I think that's more than half the game right there. Lastly, I just want to say that I'm glad all three of you are here. I'm hoping that we can work really well together and keep all this, going forward. Because at the end of the day, for me, and I know I speak for at least more than a handful, we're all doing this because we love Berkley and we just want to see it flourish and prosper. Whether it's on 12 Mile, whether it's on Coolidge, just Berkley as a whole. Having said that, I'll ask for any other board comments.
Board comments. I'm happy to announce that we have a new community development director starting on July 22nd. This community development director works on a lot of economic development in downtown, the planning stuff, and will be should be front end on implementing a lot of the things that will come out of the Berkley downtown master plan as well as the city's comprehensive master plan. So we decided to welcome her on board. She's a planner by trade. She has to be here in Canada to join the Berkley family. So excited to have that in progress.
Anybody else?
And her name is?
Erin Fluto.
Really trying to practice on saying her name correctly.
I think that's right.
As a Baumgarten, I don't like to get other people's names wrong.
Where'd she come?
She's leaving McKenna to come here. So she's been as an associate planner at McKenna. She's worked with several different communities.
I don't do that anymore.
But
Does she know the thing?
no. But excited to have her join the Berkeley.
It says you have a question. I don't have a question or a comment. Well, this is for each.
Okay.
Last couple meetings have been very, that's incorrect. Okay.
All right, I'll open this up to public comment.
Mr. Chairman, comment about procedural comment dealing with the director's exit. She's not an employee, so it's not really a resignation. In effect, she's terminating the agreement between the DDA and Carmody Consulting. Per the contract, there's a 2-week notice. That notice was given, I believe, on the 2nd. And there was no vote taken today to accept that termination of the agreement.
Did you put your question on the sign-in
It's not a
sheet?
question,
Well, it's not a comment either. I mean, there's,
it's a comment. You did not have a vote. It's a procedural thing. You did not have a vote to accept the termination of the agreement.
okay. Do we have any other public comments?
Yes. My name's Wendy Zabramski. I'm a Berkeley resident. I'm sorry that there was a communication breakdown as far as the board members. But I just wanted to point out that I'm not sure what happened, but it was not the only communication breakdown that there's been with Vivian. The road diet snafu between City Hall and Vivian, the chemistry salon, we don't know what happened with the parking. Yes, the community development director took the fall on that, but there was more involved. Many businesses in the overlay, against the overlay district. Vivian, you seem to have a way of rallying a lot of businesses and people, but alienating a lot of others. And disregard in saying some of the codes are anti-business when in fact they protect the security and safety of the residents. I'm referring to your comments in an email regarding parking agreements crossing 12 Mile. Even though somebody else took the fall for that, somehow there was an approval there. And as a resident, I'm sorry, I'm not sad to see you go, and I'm glad you didn't beg the board to keep you like you did in Franklin. Thank you.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Anybody opposed?
No.